Hey everyone, we are in Isaiah 55 to 57 today, and we are presented with two ways here. In chapter 55, we are presented with one way, which is choosing the way of the Lord, where he says, if you come and you follow me, you can buy without cost. You can drink without price. You can experience my fullness and my goodness. All you need to do is come to me, and you will experience the peace and comfort and love and blessing and compassion that is absolutely free. Why? Well, we only need to rewind a few chapters to see why it's free, because God sent his Messiah, his suffering servant, his anointed one, the one person that was going to take all of our sin and shame upon himself, that he was going to pay the price on our behalf, and that all that it cost us is nothing. Nothing. It's absolutely free because God himself has done the work through this servant, who we said is Jesus. That's what the Bible, everything in the Bible points to him. And so God invites us in Isaiah 55, and those people who are in exile, instead of continuing on in the ways of the past and finding themselves continuing to be in exile, landless, peopleless, hopeless, purposeless, he says, God invites people to choose my way. It's free, and it comes with everything. Bonus after bonus after bonus. And yet, we see that the choice may not be so clear to everybody. Because in chapters 56 and 57, there are still people who, despite the fact that they are in exile, are choosing not to follow God. Despite the fact that everything's been taken away from them, they willingly hold on to the ways of their past. Willingly hold on to their baggage, willingly continue to follow these gods that aren't alive and don't do anything for them. They continue to live in their own selfish ways, choosing to treat people poorly and to lift themselves up. They don't care. And it's a warning. The second way is saying, if you don't want to choose my way, and you want to choose your way, it's not going to go well. I mean, look where you are. You are in exile. And if you continue down that path, it's not going to end well. Haven't you realized what you've already experienced because of your sin and your brokenness? Choose me instead. We see this sort of choice all throughout the Bible. In Deuteronomy, Moses, as he's standing on the edge of the promised land, he's speaking to this new generation of people, says the same thing. Moses says, I put before you two ways, the way of life and the way of death. But the choice is ultimately yours. He reminds the people that their immediate ancestors, their parents and grandparents, chose not to believe in God, not to believe in God's goodness. They grumbled, they complained, and they didn't believe that God's promise for them to take them into this amazing land flowing with milk and honey was true. They said, we don't believe it. We don't want to go to that place. We'd rather go back into slavery than believe God. And what did God say? Okay, then. You'll get your wish. You'll be able to continue to just wander around in this desert until you die. And then a new generation springs up. And Moses says, I'm putting two ways before you. Here's the promised land. This is what God has said. These are all the things that God has done to show that he is true to his promises. He keeps his end of the bargain even though we don't. So will you choose that way, the way of life? Or will you, like your parents, your grandparents, those around you, choose the way of death? To reject God, to do what you want, to grumble, to complain, to cling to other gods that don't fill and aren't real. In that way, it doesn't lead you anywhere good. I give you two ways. And so Isaiah 55 to 57 is exactly that. Isaiah just talked about how Jesus, the suffering servant, has taken our sin and shame upon himself through his death and resurrection, and we can have life in his name. But now the choice is ours. Will we respond? Choose to follow him? To be people of this suffering servant? To be followers of this Messiah and experience life? Or will we continue to reject him, to do our own thing and choose death? So, with that being said, the choice is before you. Which one will you choose? Life or death?